It's to an immigrant trying to come into this country across the southern border. They need to be denied entry at the gate, and it means everything. So please explain this incredibly hypocritical double standard, because the moment I asked you this question as it related to an immigrant, it was very quick, clean cut, boom, denied entry, held civilly liable for rape, and they left running. Wow, man. Honestly, if you can't address your hypocrisy, okay, maybe the worst thing that you could do is to run away. It makes you look absolutely terrible. Let me tell you, it makes you look terrible. At least have the spine to sit on this live and attempt to address your hypocrisy. But he didn't want to. He said, "Oh, I got caught. I got caught red-handed. I got caught red fucking handed," and he left. So let's go to move on to the next guest. We got JD loading up into the live stream because that last guy skedaddled very, 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 very quickly. And then also real quick here, let's see. Danessa, thank you so much for the $5 over on PayPal saying it's my birthday, Dean. Happy birthday, Danessa. That is DNESA. Show some love to Danessa down below in that chat. As well as Samantha, thank you for the $5 over on PayPal. That is incredibly kind of you. And then Sierra with another 2. Thank you so much. And what's going on, JD? Do you support Trump?
Yes, sir.
Okay, how old are you?
27.
Great. Let's hop into the debate. I just got one more person to thank. Kesira, thank you so much for the $20 over on Venmo. That is Keseera for the $20 donation. They say, "I've learned so much from you. Thank you." No, thank you for your kindness. Everybody show some love to Kesira down below in that comment section for the incredibly kind $20 donation over on that Venmo. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. As well as Weldsman with the $10 over on Super Chat. Now take it away, JD. Why do you support Trump?
He is the lesser of two evils.
Okay, and
For
why is Trump the lesser of two evils?
So if you think about everything that's been happening,
Oh, you got us connected to some type of mic. Turn off your Bluetooth.
Oh, yeah. Let me get you out of here.
Great. He also might be driving because that sounds like a car mic. We'll have to clarify that with him when he's back. In the meantime, are you driving at the moment? No, he's gone again. Still. Nope.
No, I'm not driving. My wife is ordering Starbucks, and she's in the driver's seat. I'm just at the passenger right now. So if you hear a background noise, it's her. But basically, my point is culturally, we've been dealing with issues that seem not to have been addressed by the previous presidency. Obviously, between the two people running this past presidency, I would argue that one, at least the Democrat Party, became a little bit incoherent with their vision for the country, and Trump is he's obviously a leader, right? He takes initiative, and I think that was lacking for the country. So I think in general, someone in that position, right, not necessarily supporting everything that Trump stands for or what he's done in the past, the type of leadership necessary to run a country was not being shown by the opposite side. So at least in that sense,
can I have you be more specific of what those qualities were that weren't shown in Kamala Harris that are shown in Trump that makes him the best man, the best man for the job?
Yeah,
keep the preface on best man for the job, because I feel like that might be what you're getting at here.
Yeah. So Kamala Harris, I mean, for example, especially at the border, there was a lot of issues regarding the entry, who was getting let in. Kamala Harris, wasn't really addressing those issues. I mean, she did visit, but she wasn't able to gain the confidence that she would be able to make any specific moves regarding that issue. It was very vague, her plan.
So now you're just saying for the border. So he was better for the border, and that's ultimately what makes you support him.
I think that's one of them. His decisiveness.
I don't think that Donald Trump has ever had a policy to solve issues at the border in the long term. Never, literally never. I think that he is a short-term president that puts band-aids on bullet wounds, so the issue persists existing, so you could get people to support him around it. Let me ask you this question. Let me ask you a question. What is the ultimate root incentive for undocumented entry into this country?
I'm sorry. What is the ultimate root of what?
Root cause of undocumented entry into America?
The root cause? I think they're definitely fleeing from probably their, whatever situation they're in. I believe that there's a hope in America. I believe that
that's going to be the root incentive for immigration as a whole. I'm asking you for the specific root incentive for undocumented entry as a subcategory.
undocumented entry? Like, I don't know what would be. I don't know. Maybe you could answer that for me.
I can. It's going to be just the fact that the legal means of entry into this country are unattainable
Okay.
for so many immigrants. Like, for instance, if you're in Mexico and you don't
Sure.
already have family in America, it could seriously take
Yeah.
you 20 to 25 years in order to become a citizen of this country. The legal means are
Definitely.
too slow. They take way too long. They cost way too much money, which makes them
Sure.
simply unattainable for so many people that want a higher quality of life. So, in other words, the only way to truly fix undocumented entry into this country in the long term is to address that root cause of slow, neglected,
Sure.
and depraved legal means of entry. Now, go ahead and give
Sure.
me an example of Donald Trump standing in front of a microphone on a podium in the last 10 years, even just talking about how he wants to make the legal means of entry into this country more attainable to reduce undocumented entry.
Yeah, I would agree that like but the states haven't really addressed that issue specifically, but I will say that the problems that are caused by the amount of
So
illegal
now you're
entry
pivoting.
points.
Now you're pivoting. My
No,
very
no,
specific
you're
question
you're you're
was: has Donald Trump even done as much as stood in front of a podium on a mic and said he wants to make the legal means of entry into this country better, which would fix the ultimate root
no. I
cause
think
for
he's
undocumented
made it.
entry?
I think he's made it harder. I think he's definitely made it harder for people to enter into this country legally.
Okay, so then you're just saying that he's only given more incentive for undocumented entry. So please tell me how a president that is only giving more incentive for undocumented entry into this country is better for the border.
Wait a minute. He's giving. Oh, you're saying that he's giving incentive for undocumented entry, but we're not necessarily disagreeing with the issue. The root cause being that, like, at least in America, there are have been issues at the border with undocumented entry. You're just saying that he's kind of facilitated it because of his restrictions. More undocumented people are coming in. Is that right?
No, I mean, you said that you support him because he's good for the border. We agreed that the root cause of undocumented entry was slow, neglected, and depraved legal means of
Yeah.
entry. And then we
Okay.
agree that Donald Trump has never even said that he wants to address that, meaning that Donald Trump has never even said that he wants to address the root cause of undocumented entry. And if we don't address
Right.
its root cause, then we'll never fix it in the long term. So, in other words,
Gotcha.
you've said that Donald Trump has never even done as much as said he wants to pass policy to fix undocumented entry into America in the long term. And he's never said that he wants
Right.
to fix / address the root cause. And in fact,
Right.
the one time in modern American history when our government has taken an approach to at least take a step in the right direction with the bipartisan border bill under the Biden-Harris administration, which would have hired
Yeah.
more judges to run more courts at the southern border to expedite all legal claims of entry, Donald Trump
Mm-hmm.
explicitly told the Republican congressmen and women to shoot it down so the
Yeah.
Democrats couldn't take a win. So how can you say
Yeah.
this man is better for the border if he's never addressed
Yeah.
the root cause of undocumented entry?
So
He never intends
so
to, and he's actively fought against any progress.
Yeah, that's a great point, right? Like that definitely is a great point in theory, right? Your idea is that like the other party, under the Biden administration, they were gonna have judges that were going to essentially facilitate the process of making things legal for these undocumented immigrants, right? Well, the problems that were being the problems at the border were that was an immediate need, right? When you have someone saying, oh yeah, we have plans to bring things the legal way, like we have all these ideas of we're going to hire judges to make things legal, right? Then you have to somehow trust, right, that these people, the administration, are going to actually accomplish that objective. And the issue is a lot of people had distrust in the way that the Biden administration was like making things happen. Like there was an inability to get things done, even though their ideas
Let's play a
sounded
game.
great. Sure.
I think that
Huh?
they got more done than Donald Trump in his first and second term. I'm going to name something that Biden and Harris got done, and then you're going to name something that Trump has gotten done. Okay?
Okay.
And we'll
Sure.
go back and forth, and let's see who runs out first.
Like that got done? Like,
yeah,
did it-
that they
that
got
worked?
done. And if I run out of things first, then your claim that they had an inability to get things done is true. If you run out first, then your claim that they had an inability to get things done is abundantly false. So I'll start with one thing they
Okay.
got done. They got the PACT
sure.
Act done. That was an investment of $800 million into the expansion of VA healthcare benefits to service over 1 million new veterans that were not covered under VA healthcare for particular ailments or conditions prior. Your turn. What's something Trump has gotten done?
Well, initially, I think the wall.
No, he actually didn't get the wall done. He built less than 51 miles of it. And then the Biden-Harris administration tried to build more than he did. And that's the bill that he told Republicans to shoot down.
What's
Try
interesting
again.
though is that if you were to go back, they were like severely against the wall, and then they end up building on it. That just seems like they're changing with what like the established, like Trump's ideas ended up, it initially were not a good idea, and then just complete like change of mind. They said, yeah, we're gonna add more to this wall when that was a huge point against Donald Trump. So I just think that that's initially just right off the bat a sign of their inability to actually come up with a solid plan without piggybacking off of Donald Trump. So
What? Okay, you just have a complete, total lack of knowledge or know-how insofar as how Congress works. Because the reason why the wall was included in that bipartisan border bill is because the Democrats basically had to work with the Republicans in Congress. The Republicans in Congress said, well, in order for us to help you guys pass this bill, you're going to have to give us some things that we want. We want more of this wall. And because the Democrats, and particularly the Biden-Harris administration, was so good at swimming in Congress and getting shit done, they said, okay, we'll give you more of this wall if we get what we want for hiring more judges to expedite the legal means of entry. And then your pivot on this, your twist on this is to blame them for being so effective in working with the Republicans to get more done, that somehow that's a bad thing. That means they could get less done. You don't even know what you're saying. I feel like this is a purely rhetorical statement with no substance behind it. And at the end of the day, when we like add a little bit of critical thought on top of your claims here, what you're claiming is actually completely false.
I mean, I understand where you're coming from, man. Like, I understand that the Biden administration did have a lot of plans for immigration, making things easier, but at the end of the day, like that, they weren't addressing certain issues, like the ginormous influx of illegal immigrants coming in.
Now you're pivoting away because you just no. Now you're pivoting. Why are
It's
you
not
pivoting?
necessarily a pivot
Yes, you are,
because
because you made the claim that their allowance to build more of the border wall somehow negatively reflected on their administration.
Well, my
Adrian,
initial
thank you
claim-
so much for the signature, Jed. I really do appreciate you so much for that love, Adrian. And then you said their allowance for the border wall not only negatively reflected on their administration, but was an example of their inability to get things done. I then described to you how the opposite was true, and then you just completely ignored what I said and pivoted. So address what I just said. Your original claim was that their allowance of more border wall construction under their first administration was a negative of their administration that showed them to be ineffective. I described how it only demonstrated them to be more effective because they were able to work with Republicans in Congress to get shit done. What is your response? As well as Adrian, thank you for the cool firework gift. You're awesome,
Well,
Adrian. Thank you so much.
initially, I said that they were against Trump building the wall, and then they just built on top of it. And like that's all I'm saying. Like that's
But you're framing that in a negative light, saying that this is showing them to be hypocrites or whatever. But this isn't showing them to be hypocrites. It's showing them to be malleable, and it shows an ability to work with the Republicans in Congress. That doesn't show inconsistency at all. It shows that they were willing to work with the Republicans in Congress to get shit done.
Right, but the whole party was against building the wall in the first place.
And they were still against building the wall. And the fact that they wanted to build more was a concession to the Republicans to get shit done.
Okay, so you're just saying they worked hand in hand with the Republicans to get it done, which
absolutely.
I agree. But my issue is that,
explain to me how that's a negative thing that we should frame in a bad light.
No, what I'm trying to say is that the initiation of Trump is a positive to build the wall, right? Like, which initially.
No, what you said was that the fact that the Democrats in Congress were wanting to build more of it was a bad negative thing. I explained to you how they made that concession to Republicans to get shit done. Right. So explain to me why bipartisanship to get shit done is a bad thing that the Democrats.
Right, that is not a bad thing. That is definitely.
So
not
then
a bad
concede. Thing. Earlier you said it was a bad thing.
No, what I'm saying is the bad thing is that the inconsistency where they're basically
how is making a concession to be bipartisan inconsistent?
Shutting down initially, right? When Trump had the idea to build the wall, he got a lot of criticism for it. It was seen as a bad idea. Like generally, the Democrat Party thought it was a horrible idea, right? And then as the effectiveness of the wall, right, which was initiated by Trump, was shown, it was effective. They end up working with the party, right, which is great, to then continue to build the wall, which is great.
This is all false. Everything that you just said was false. What evidence do you have that the 51 miles of wall that Trump built was effective? Because month by month border crossings under Donald Trump's first term went up every month he was in office until COVID hit and they implemented Title 42. What is your evidence that the 51 miles of wall that Trump built was effective?
I'm saying the initiation of a wall in general, the idea of building a wall was generally by the Democrat Party rejected even
You
initiate
said that it was
building a wall.
rejected, and then after it was shown to be effective, they wanted it. What is the evidence that that border wall was effective?
The idea of building a wall was eventually accepted and added upon.
Why are you, dude? Stop
to make it
You
more
just said
effective.
stop. You just said no. We're gonna roll back what you just said because this is unreal.
Let's roll it back,
Rejected,
sure.
and then after it was
Shown it was effective, the Democrat Party thought it was a horrible idea, right? And then as the effectiveness of the wall, right, which was initiated by Trump, was shown it was effective, they end up.
You said in that clip that I just rolled back that the efficacy of the 51 miles of wall built in his first term was shown, and the wall was effective. What is your evidence that that wall was effective?
The evidence is
Also,
that
Adrian,
it was
thank you so much for the love and cat as well. Show some love to Adrian and cat down below.
Look, if you're trying to say that the wall was like completely effective, I agree with you. Like, it was not completely effective.
Cat, thank you for this specular show. I really appreciate you so much for the love, Cat. So then why did you say that it was effective? I'll roll it back again. I'll roll it back again.
That was a horrible idea, right? And then as the effectiveness of the wall, right, which was initiated by Trump, was shown it was effective.
So which one is it? Is it effective or is it not effective?
The idea of building a wall is a good, let me change my wording. The idea of building a wall is a good idea, right? And that's why it was added upon. So, like, tell me, in your perspective,
no, you're still not answering my question. Was it effective or was it not effective?
Yes, it was effective in a sense where there was merit to his idea.
Okay, what is the evidence that that wall was effective?
If you're saying, if you're trying to use data on a closed wall, right? Like, the wall hasn't been fully built, right? So you're arguing that the wall wasn't effective because there was an increase.
Hey, buddy.
Does that make sense?
Hey, buddy.
Bro, I feel like
the wall built by Trump in his first term was effective. What is your evidence that the wall built by Trump in his first term was effective?
Bro, I feel like you're intentionally not, like, trying to understand me.
I'm just asking you for the evidence for your claim. That is not outrageous. That is not disingenuous. That is not bad faith. That should be an expectation. You just reaffirmed for the third time that you believe the wall built by Trump in his first term was effective. What is the evidence to demonstrate its effectiveness?
What I'm trying to say, dude, is that
I want your evidence that the wall was effective. I'm not going to ask you again. I'm going to let you talk. I'm not going to interrupt you. Give the evidence that the wall was effective. I don't want what I'm trying to say. So what you're saying is that it's ineffective. I want the evidence of its efficacy. I won't interrupt you, though. Take it away. Unmute yourself. Click on your profile picture, then click the icon of the microphone. That's how you unmute. There you go. I won't interrupt you. I apologize for interrupting you right there. I don't want what I'm trying to say. So you think it was ineffective. I just want the evidence for your claim that it was effective.
So I guess in San Diego, there's a 12-mile stretch that saved $28 million. Okay. In Yuma, illegal entries dropped by 87%. In Rio Grande Valley, with a new barrier.
Yeah, I was cutting out.
In El Paso, zones 14 and 15 saw a 60 to 81% reduction in border crossings. The CBP described it as an effective deterrent in targeted sectors.
Nope. So now he's still lagging.
The reality is that there were. Sorry, did you hear me? So I quoted the facts, at least in San Diego, Yuma, Rio Grande Valley.
Okay.
So
how many undocumented entries did it prevent?
Did it prevent, like, in total?
Yeah.
Let's see here. So probably reduced. Like, do you want the number for it? Like,
yeah.
Well, I was just saying that it was effective in those areas. So, are you trying to make another point?
How many undocumented entries did it prevent in those areas?
Undocumented entries?
Yeah.
Okay, how many undocumented entries did it prevent?
That's the question I'm asking you.
Sorry, these are really important facts. Let's see here. It reported San Diego reduction. Let's see here. Probably around 50. So if it decreased 95%,
Okay. Sorry, I got to kick you because you're lagging too bad, man. We seriously couldn't make out what you were saying for the last 45 seconds because the lag was too bad. If you happen to be in a spot with a better internet connection, feel free to re-request. That'd be great, but you were lagging as all hell. Welcome in, Bray. Do you support Trump?
Yes, sir, I do.
Phenomenal. How old are you?
I'm 20.
Phenomenal. Okay, real quick before we hop into debate, I'd like to thank Susan for the $25 over on PayPal. Thank you for the love, Susan. Susan said, thank you for trying to educate the masses. Keep it up, Susan. That is so incredibly kind of you. Thank you so much. If we could please get 250 Susan W's down below in the chat, that would be awesome, everybody. Once again, thank you so much for the love. Everybody show some love to Susan. I would also like to quickly show some love to Lauren for the $5 over on Venmo. Alana with the $7 saying, when I came out to my mom, she didn't care, but when she found out I didn't vote for Trump, she cried and said I was lost. Jesus, Alana, I'm so sorry. As well as Camila, thank you so much for the $10 over on Venmo. Camila says, hey, Dean, I'm leaving for boot camp in 9 days. I joined the Navy. Wish me luck. You're an amazing person, and please continue to protect our rights. By the way, please say hi to Carla and Andrea. They're my sisters. Well, good luck in boot camp. Camila, I know that boot camp can be pretty crazy, as well as shout out to Carla and Andrea. Thank you so much for the $10 donation. Now, Mr. Bray, take it away. Why do you support the man, the myth, the failure, Donald Trump as president?
Well, I just think he's a better leader for this country, and I like most of the stuff he supports. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, goodness gracious. So why do you think he's a better leader? What is he doing that you support? Because when I look at his leadership ability, I think it's terrible because I think he's an incompetent man with bad plans that only serve the richest among us and disenfranchise the average American, increase poverty, and reduce our economic prosperity while also increasing human rights violations, such as the 66 million American women and girls who are denied access to abortion because he overturned Roe v. Wade, and his fascist attempt to play judge, jury, and executioner, such as he did with Abri Garcia, who he illegally deported to a center for terrorists in El Salvador, where then Abrigo Garcia was literally beaten and tortured. And while Abrigo Garcia was beaten and tortured, our Supreme Court ruled that he needed to be returned, and the Trump administration said it would never happen. So why do you think he's a strong leader in lieu of all these facts I've just shared with you?
Well, I'm not that informed on this topic. I'm a young voter, of course, and I would love to. I'm not in college yet. I'm going next semester.
How old
So
are
I'm
you?
not that informed. 20.
Okay, take it away.
Yeah. So, well, in his first term, I mean, he was just a stronger leader. And last term, it was Biden administration, of course, but she was over the border, right? That was like one of her jobs. Or,
So what was Kamala Harris's specific job?
I mean, I thought she was over the border.
So what was her specific job? If you don't know, just say.
I mean, I'm not. No, I don't know.
So
I mean,
Kamala Harris's specific job was to work with Southern Latin American countries to reduce the incentive that individuals in those countries had to immigrate into this country by fixing issues with their economies. She did so successfully. She was able to reduce immigration from Guatemala by upwards of 50%, and that was her job.
Well, was she also over like the Mexican border? Because I thought that was like, no. Oh.
Nope. And then also, everybody in the chat is saying that you're 17. Is that true?
I'm not 17. No.
What year were you born in?
I was 2005.
What month?
I was born February 22nd, 2005.
Okay, that checks out. Everybody that's saying he's 17, where are you getting that from? I'm looking at his account. I see 2 videos. I don't see like 17 or anything.
I mean, there's a song talking about 17. I mean,
okay, just be honest. Are you 17?
No, man, I'm 20.
Okay, take it away. I'll believe you. Why do you? So go ahead and continue.
Yeah. So I mean, last year or under the Biden administration, the past 4 years, it was the worst immigration that we've seen from Mexican border.
Dude, we've been talking about immigration for the last hour. Like nobody is okay. All right. Do you think that the Biden-Harris administration opened the border?
Do I think they opened the border?
Yeah.
No, but I don't think they secured it.
Okay. Do you think that they would have secured the border if Donald Trump didn't torpedo the bipartisan border bill?
I mean, possibly. Who knows?
Okay.
It didn't
So you
happen,
think that
so-
Donald Trump prevented them from securing the border?
I'm not informed on this. I'm not even gonna lie.
If you're not informed on this, then we shouldn't debate this. What do you want to debate that you are informed on?
Honestly, man, that's just my views. You can debate somebody else. Have a good one, man.
Okay, I guess he doesn't want to have a conversation, so we're going to move on to the next guest. If you're watching and you'd like to support me, you can find my PayPal as well as my temporary Venmo in the link tree in my BIO. I get 100% of those proceeds. Shav, thank you so much for the Galaxy. Compared to like 30% here on TT or 30% on YT, they all go straight to me, as well as I get a notification at the top of my phone screen where I could shout out your name and attach message as well as an amount. And yeah, I appreciate everyone so much for the love. What's going on, Alex? Do you support Trump?
Hello, no, I'm Irish. I just wanted to say that I watch you every night.
That's awesome, Alex. Appreciate you for being here, but we are just looking for Trump supporters to have some debates with. We're going to move on to the next guest, Victoria. Here we go, everyone. All right. Let's go and get Victoria loaded into the stream. We got them connecting. Hi, Victoria. Are you MAGA? Okay, Victoria's just simply not here either, as well as Jocelyn. Thank you so much for the $10 over on PayPal, saying thank you for what you do, Jocelyn. That is incredibly kind of you. Guys, show some love to Jocelyn down below in that comment section for the $10. Thank you so much. It really does mean the world, Jocelyn. Huge shout out to Jocelyn down below, as well as let's try to get that next guest up here. Go ahead and drop a MAGA with your age down below in that comment section if you would like to request to join to have a conversation. Hello, do you support Trump? You're on your phone. We can hear you. Do you want to say hi? How old are you? Okay, they're doing something, so unfortunately they are not free to chat. Let's go to move on to Chris. And honestly, just, let me know in that chat if you want to come up. Honestly, I'm not really seeing a whole lot of people that are ready and willing to join up and have a good faith discussion. I think I'm going to start pulling from the chat compared to the queue, everybody, because the queue seemingly is overran by people who just literally aren't here. It looks like we got Cameron connecting right now, everybody. Let's see if we can get Cameron up in the box here. Cameron was just spamming MAGA. Hey, Cameron, you support Trump?
Oh, yeah, bud, you right?
Your mic sucks.
Huh?
Your mic is really bad. Sorry, Cameron. We're going to move on to Cummins, everyone. Just give us a minute to get Cummins to join the live. Y'all, just be patient. Cummins. What's going on, Mr. Cummins? Do you support Trump? And Cummins just left really quickly. Which we look at that, everybody. Look at that. Okay. And then Finn just told me in the chat that I was a runner, so I invited him up, and then he just ran. Actually, I kind of want everybody just to look at this guy. Look at this dude, Mr. Finn. Finn, join up, bro. You're calling me a runner down below in that chat. Don't just leave. Come on, Finn. That's unreal. All right, we're going to get that next guest up here right now, everybody. We are seriously just looking for one person to come up here and to have a conversation with us about why they support Trump. It is definitely proving to be incredibly hard. Hello, Mr. HVAC man. Do you support Trump?
Hello. Yes.
Okay, your mic is really bad. Do you have like a headset on? Do you have like AirPods in?
Yeah, I got a headset on. How does it sound now?
Please take the headset off and disconnect Bluetooth from your phone. It'll only be about a billion.
It's not
times
Bluetooth. It's actually plugged in with a cord.
Okay, if you could take that off.
Just bear with me here. Let me get a good spot.
Are you driving?
Mm-hmm. No, bro. I'm walking around.
Okay.
Walking. Talking.
Okay.
Give me a second.
All right. Well, while they're unplugging that headset really quick, Maya, thank you for the $5 over on PayPal. Maya says, I've learned so much from watching you and Parker debate. Thank you for what you do and informing so many people. I hope you have a great day. Hey, Maya, I appreciate you for the love, and I hope you have a great day as well. As well as Rachel with the $2 over on Venmo, Michelle with a 5. I appreciate y'all so much. All right, Mr. HVAC, if you want to go and unmute that mic so we could hop into a discussion, that would be great. All you got to do is...
Gotcha. Hang on. Let me walk into this building here.
What is... Okay. Well, this guy's doing whatever the hell he's doing. We're honestly just going to pull someone else up. We got...
All right, I'm ready. Ready to go. How's that sound?
Unplug the headset.
Sound better?
You still have an unplugged headset.
How's this sound now? Should be pretty quiet, pretty mellow.
I want you to unplug the headset.
Hey, buddy. I got some.
Yeah, we're just gonna kick him because he couldn't unplug the headset. Okay. All right. Mr. Big Rig, do you support Trump? Okay. I'm gonna turn that off now. Do you support Trump?
Hey, buddy. Look at what I got to show you
Dude,
a little bit.
Get off the stream. Moving on. Here we go, everybody. All right. We're maybe okay. Well, fine. Whatever the fuck. We'll try again with HVAC.
Hello.
Fixed.
Any better?
Very good. Is there anything that you could do to get away from the background music?
Yeah. Just get through. I'm just walking around the mall, so it's kind of annoying. Sorry about that. Anywho, yeah, I support Trump. How you feeling about the big beautiful bill?
I still need you to get away from the background music.
You love the background.
No, I
know,
don't.
You think a nice big mall would be perfect, but fuck. Hang on, I got a better. Sorry about that. Story of my life here. All right, here we go. All right, how's that sound?
Jesus, only took us 8 years, but we got there. So take it away. Tell us why you support Trump.
Well, for your TikTok brain, I bet you it felt like that, didn't it?
Right, yeah. So why do you support Trump?
I support Trump. I mean, I like his leadership. I like what he's doing. I like the bill. I like his path forward. I think it's all pretty good.
Okay, you like his leadership. I think that he's used his leadership to do incredibly, morally inexcusable things, such as how he attempted to play judge, jury, and executioner with Abri Garcia. I brought this up to the last guest. They didn't have much of a response. I want to see what you think about it. So, he illegally deported an immigrant to a Center for Terrorists prison in El Salvador. While that immigrant, Abri Garcia, was in said Center for Terrorists, he was beaten and tortured. He was forced to kneel from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. And if he fell, he would have been beaten. He was beaten. He lost 31 pounds, and he had to sleep in a very small room with a billion of other people with bright fluorescent lights on 24/7. And while he was being beaten and tortured in this prison, our Supreme Court had told the Trump administration that his removal was illegal and that they had to facilitate his return. And then the Trump administration responded by saying that he's never coming home. I think that this is an egregious overplay of their power as rooted in the executive branch of our government. And I think it's incredibly wrong for his administration to straight up play judge, jury, and executioner, sending an immigrant without due process to be beaten and tortured in a prison in another country.
Okay, we got it. Thank you. You used emotion. Got it. Fine. Yeah, no, I mean, you're just proving the point that checks and balances work. So good point. Now you can't say he's a dictator. Great. No, and obviously the Supreme Court found it wasn't just. They violated due process, and he was brought back home. Next.
So the Trump administration played judge, jury, and executioner, sent him to be beaten and tortured. It ignored the SCOTUS ruling until they couldn't.
So they executed him. Okay.
So execution there is going to be used in the metaphorical sense to denote literally being beaten and tortured.
Okay. Jesus. Yeah, okay. What about it? Like, I mean, I get it, but
what about it? He was beaten and tortured without due process after being illegally deported? What about it?
Yeah, okay, got it. Let's see the source you're using for this one.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the source that SCOTUS ruled it is illegal.
Came and said it was what happened to him?
Oh, my goodness. Oh, dude, can I speak?
Dude, you've been speaking. I said 10 words.
You asked me a question. I was attempting to answer your question.
I already know what you're going to say. Sorry, go ahead.
You asked me for my source. So the source said he was illegally deported. This is coming from a SCOTUS ruling on April 10th, 2025. And the source said he was beaten and tortured was his testimony from his attorney.
Okay. Fantastic. All right. I already agree that he was deported. We know that. And I said he violated due process. Great. Next. Terrible argument, emotional, whatever. This doesn't prove... You think Trump, handpicked him to, be deported? And by the way, if you want to talk about political lawfare, which apparently this is...
So why did you say next? Terrible argument? Well, I'm so sorry. So all that I'm saying is that the Trump administration illegally deported him, to a center for terrorists. While I was in the center for terrorists, he was beaten and tortured literally. SCOTUS ruled that the Trump administration had to bring him home. His removal was illegal. The official White House account on Twitter then said, "We're never going to bring him home," while he was illegally beaten and being tortured in a prison in another country. So I think the large takeaway from the set of facts is going to be that the Trump administration has an absolute disdain for inherent dignity in Abri Garcia's life and a disdain for human rights. Because I believe the only way you could just completely say he's never coming home, he's going to stay there and be beaten and tortured, even though he's there illegally, is if you have a disdain for those things. That's
okay. That's okay. I got it. Okay. So
you've reconnected the headset.
Again, all
you've
you're
reconnected the headset. Unconnect the headset.
About that.
carry on. Sorry about that. Yeah, okay. You just keep repeating the argument. Like, what's your what's the point here? You're saying that they have a disdain.
The point is that the Trump administration has a disdain for human rights. The Trump administration has a disdain for human dignity.
What do you mean by disdain?
A disdain, a disregard.
A disregard. Okay, because they deported somebody that they violated his due process. He came back. The checks and balances work. How many more people has he done that to?
So although he came back, the Trump administration didn't want him to come back after they knew his deportation was illegal, and they likely knew he was being beaten and tortured.
They likely knew he was being beaten and tortured. Okay, but you're just proving that he's not a dictator. He's not doing whatever he wants.
So I don't think that Donald Trump can do whatever he wants with no check or balance. I think that he definitely wants to stress test those checks and balances, and we can have a conversation about that. But what I am proving that I would like you to very specifically respond to is that this demonstrates a very obvious disregard of human dignity and human rights. So do you agree or disagree that this demonstrates a very obvious disregard for human dignity and human rights because they didn't care that this man was being beaten and tortured after he was illegally deported to the Center for Terrorists in another country, and my evidence that they didn't give a shit was their statement on Twitter saying that he's never coming back?
Okay, yeah, it's a terrible thing.
So why do you support a president that you agree has a complete disdain and disregard of human dignity and human rights?
Oh, I don't think he does.
Then you have to give the argument against what I just said, because you agree.
Well, what he's trying to
exactly
why,
dude,
are you gonna let me talk?
And then you don't give an argument against it.
Okay, thank you. Well, if you let me talk, that's okay. Awesome. So what I think you do is he's fulfilling his promise to deport criminals as promised, right? And I don't have a problem if you're here, even if you're here illegally, right? But I think he's trying to set the tone. They're not even deporting as much as Obama and Biden did. And of course, they're going to make mistakes. I think it's good to stress test the system. It shows that we have a good Supreme Court justice who isn't biased. They brought him back. That means they're adhering to the laws. These are all various wins. Yes, of course, they could have done it a different way. And if he truly does have disdain, which you haven't really proved, you just said it emotionally based off of a statement by his lawyer and him saying he wasn't going to bring him back.
The disdain was proven by the statement from the White House on Twitter, as well as you just classified it as a mistake. Well, I don't believe that the culmination of the facts that I just granted would amount to a mistake, also due to the statement put out by the White House on Twitter. Because if it was truly a mistake that they wanted to right the wrong of, well, then they wouldn't have put out the statement saying that he's never coming back after he's being beaten and tortured, and they knew that his removal was illegal.
Okay, yeah, okay. It was tied up in litigation, wasn't it, for a little while?
No, this was after the original ruling from SCOTUS, but it was during the ongoing litigation in the federal court to determine what that facilitation would look like. However, rejection of him ever coming back would be a rejection of the original litigation finalized by SCOTUS. So no, we can't just say it was tied up in litigation.
Are you saying it's him ignoring the SCOTUS that's the problem, or the Twitter post that's the problem?
Well, I think the specific problem that I'm pointing out right now is that the culmination of these facts would amount to a very obvious disdain for human dignity and human rights.
Because when you're talking about executive authority and judicial, they can run parallel, and there can be a fight for over which one's going to take precedent.
That's not true when we're talking about things that are ruled or deemed as unconstitutional by the Supreme Court.
That doesn't mean the executive branch has to. So, for example, when didn't Biden overlook some Supreme Court rulings as well when it came to the grant or the loan forgiveness?
No,
he didn't.
He did not. He just simply found a non-unconstitutional way to do it.
Okay, so he found a workaround.
A workaround. It's not a workaround because instead of doing it unconstitutionally, he did it constitutionally.
Okay, so how could they remove Abri Garcia constitutionally?
The answer to that question would be through an immigration court with a hearing in front of a judge, while also upholding his withholding order and in demonstration of its validity or invalidity inside of said hearing. However, that question is not responding to my original claim that I'd like you to respond to, which is that the Trump administration has demonstrated a disdain for human rights as it relates to their obvious oversight of the Trump administration's deportation of Abri Garcia and their unwillingness to bring him back, even after SCOTUS ruled that they had to facilitate his return, and he was being beaten and tortured in a center for terrorists in El Salvador.
Right, but they did bring him back.
So they were
So I don't know
ultimately
what you're-
forced
so-
to
so
by
yeah, whatever they
litigation in a
posted on
lower
Twitter
federal
is-
court. But ultimately speaking, man, I don't think the fact that they did bring him back at the end of the day would be a cogent or sufficient response to my argument that they had a disdain for human rights, since they obviously demonstrated an intent/unwillingness to bring him back by saying that he's never coming home while he's being beaten and tortured. Like imagine if I were to take my baby, because I'm a father, hypothetically, and just put them in the middle of a road, okay? And I know that this baby could be ran over by a car, and then maybe my neighbor comes up to me and they say, go get your baby out of the middle of the road. And I say, no, I'm never going to get my baby out of the middle of the road. But then the neighbor calls the cops, and then the cops show up to my door and they force me to take my baby out of the middle of the road. And I do, and I take the baby back inside. Obviously, if a third party were then to come up and make the argument that I demonstrated a disdain for human rights of my child because I, A, put them in the middle of a road, and then B, demonstrated an unwillingness to bring him back inside, a response from you saying, well, at the end of the day, I didn't show a disdain for human rights because I brought them back inside after the cop forced me to, would not be a sufficient rebuttal. Okay? And this
Right, but that
analogy
was
is
on-
going
that
to
was
be
disanalogous.
is going to be very important in this sense, because what your argument is well, because at the end of the day, they ultimately did bring him back after he was beaten and tortured in this prison. They still demonstrated a very broad, clear, and lacking disdain of human rights and human dignity, because after SCOTUS had ruled that they had to facilitate his return and he was being beaten in the prison, they posted on Twitter that he's never coming home.
Right. Okay. So there are a couple reasons why this is disanalogous is because a father to their child doesn't have the same precedence over a law that would govern immigrants, right? Immigration. The second reason is disanalogous is because the father being, you're saying Donald Trump, and then the police being, I guess, like what, SCOTUS, right? The police actually have inherently more law backing them based off of various laws. They don't. Well, I mean, the parent. You could say the same about the parent as well, but the sending
Inherently
him,
more law backing them based upon various
You gotta
laws.
let me finish the
Nice word
sentence, man.
salad, man.
dude. You're the one up here giving the word salad, not me. Come on.
Wait.
Anyway, you're making.
I'm
you're,
sorry.
You're making an argument based off of
Wait.
emotion. You
Let's
keep
roll the
using
clip back.
emotionally
Let's roll the
triggering
clip back.
words.
No. We're gonna roll the clip back and re-listen to that word salad. And lacking disdain of an
Okay, so there are a couple reasons why this is disanalogous is because a father to their child doesn't have the same precedence over a law that would govern immigrants, right? Immigration. The second reason is disanalogous is because the father being, you're saying Donald Trump, and then the police being, I guess, like what, SCOTUS, right? The police actually have inherently more law backing them based off of various laws. They don't.
inherently more law backing them based upon various laws is undeniably an atrociously terrible word salad.
Wow, you did so well there, Dean. You're getting so good at debating. Actually, it seems like you're getting worse, honestly. Anyway, yeah, well, if you let me finish my sentence, I could certainly carry on with how that would be disanalogous. You're comparing a father putting their child in the middle of the road versus deporting someone that's not here legally, right? So the baby has the baby is legally the father's responsibility, right? So with the immigration, he's not here legally. He doesn't have the same type of responsibility that a parent would be implied with a parent over their child. Disanalogous. I mean, I mean, and look, dude, you're cool, whatever. But I mean,
so the reason why this first explanation, so the reason why this first explanation of the analogy I gave is insufficient is because as follows: we could replace the baby with a father with just two random people. The reason why I chose a father with a baby is because the baby wouldn't be able to control the force exuberated by the father that placed the baby in a space where it risked their human rights being violated. And the reason why this is ultimately what the tie is to the case of Abri Garcia is because Abri Garcia couldn't stop the fact that he was illegally deported. Abri Garcia couldn't stop the fact that he was being beaten and tortured in CCOT. Abri Garcia couldn't leave that prison. The only person that held the power over Abri Garcia was ultimately the Trump administration, as well as the checks and balances offered by the courts. So the disdain for human rights would be the fact that the Trump administration, A, put Abri Garcia in this place where he was being beaten beaten and tortured in CCOT. B, they did so illegally. They violated his withholding order, and that's what SCOTUS ruled. And then C, once SCOTUS ruled that they did so illegally and they had to facilitate his return and he was being beaten and tortured, then the Trump administration said that he's never coming home. So your response there, saying that it's disanalogous because maybe the father and the child would have a special relationship that the Trump administration wouldn't have to Abri Garcia, is completely irrelevant. Because we could replace the child in that example maybe with my older neighbor. So let's assume that I take my older neighbor who doesn't have the ability to walk or move without a wheelchair. I take them out of the wheelchair and I put them in the middle of the road. Okay. Well, if I leave them in that middle of the road, knowing that they're running the risk of getting ran over by a car, and I say that I'm not going to get them outside of the middle of the road, even though I'm the one that put them there, I'm demonstrating a disdain for human rights. Okay, even if a cop at the end of the day shows up to my door and says, you got to get them out of the middle of the road, and I do. So once again, the purpose of the analogy ultimately goes to demonstrate that your counter argument saying, well, the Trump administration brought him home at the end of the day is completely irrelevant to this disdain exuberated before they were forced to by that lower federal court when they said he's never coming home, even though he's being illegally beaten and tortured in a prison for terrorists in another country.
Mm-hmm. Okay, sure. I mean, that's definitely a lot better analysis, but we're also talking about with what you said. Okay, so the agency, well, I'm glad you reframed it because that's a lot better. But again, I mean, I'm just going to like disagree that like Trump has that sort of like, do you think that he pointed out himself? Or, well, I mean, you agree that he didn't, and what he did after was his disdain for human rights, right? And do you know that he knew he was going to be tortured?
I mean, the American people, you got an echo. The American people and everybody else that's been keeping a close eye on CCOT has known that the individuals in that prison are tortured and beaten. Then, of course, we knew once, you made that public statement through his attorney. It's likely that he also told the congressmen and women that went down to visit him, and it's likely that Donald Trump knew the conditions of CCOT because it's Donald Trump who funded CCOT a couple million/billion of dollars per year in a deal to house undocumented immigrants from other countries in CCOT, meaning that it's likely that Donald Trump, as well as the totality of the administration, knew the conditions of the inmates. So, yeah, I'd say that we have more than enough reason to believe that the Trump administration knew the treatment of Abri Garcia alongside other inmates.
Yeah, I mean, again, that didn't sound very conclusive, like, no offense. It does sound like you're pleading a little bit to emotion here, but I mean, we can move on if you like.
Wait, no, we don't need to move on. If the American people knew about it. American people knew about the treatment of inmates at CCOT. You could find articles about how individuals have been treated in CCOT from the last year. So if the American people knew about it, why didn't it Trump? He's the goddamn president, the most powerful man alive.
I mean, I couldn't tell you, man. I don't know inside of his mind, brother.
Right. So see how ultimately your counter response here is completely meaningless, completely absurd, because if the average American can know about it, obviously the president would too.
Okay, dude. Sure.
So now that we know that Donald Trump likely knew about the fact that Abri Garcia, alongside other inmates, were being beaten and tortured, we can definitely agree that his disdain to bring him home, even though he was there illegally/wrongfully, demonstrated a disdain for human rights.
Yeah, I mean, you can, dude, look, thread the needle in any way you like. I mean, you're hung up on this one, and I mean, I really, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I think that you're drawing a bunch of different conclusions and then you're putting it all together and like you keep saying the same words over and over again. Like, it's like, dude, we got it. Beaten and tortured. Got it.
Oh, well,
Like,
if you understand my argument,
it's just emotional.
If you understand my argument through and through, because I've repeated it so many times, either concede
understand your
or
argument
reject
through
it
and through.
with a counter position.
Yeah, I objected with the counter position already. You weren't
Which is it?
listening. You just keep repeating yourself. Sure. Yes, because Trump is keeping his promise to make deportations as he promised, right? And
So saying that Donald Trump promised deportations does not refute my position that Donald Trump demonstrated
you
a
gotta let me
disdain of
finish
human
the point,
rights.
brother. You just got to let me finish the
Okay,
point.
well, that
That's
first
okay.
point failed, but it's okay. I understand. Go ahead and try to make a better one.
Wait. Why are you saying? So wait, you can't refute a point if you don't hear the whole point, though.
Oh,
He's
so
making
you're going to
promises.
add
He's
something
saying
more onto your
example
statement saying that he promised
of coming
deportations
to our country
to make
legal
the
or illegally,
counter-response
specifically going after people that were like specifically criminalized, even not in the sense of like coming here illegally, right, or doing something. You know, he said he was going to go after rapists, whatever.
Oh, that's a bad point to make.
Oh, okay. Let me guess. We're going to go with this one.
The reason that's a bad point to make is because when Abri Garcia was deported, he had no criminal record in this country.
He had no criminal record in this country. Well,
Yeah.
he was definitely tied up in court. But I'm not saying he did.
No,
I never
no.
said he did.
Well, I mean, that was your
be fair.
response to me pointing out a disdain of human rights on behest of the Trump administration, and more so
But it was
specifically
thought that he
Trump
was a criminal.
with Abri Garcia's deportation. Oh, so it was thought. So you're saying that there was an allegation without due process, his day in court, or representation via an attorney. And so if you want to use that argument, you're only showing Trump to be worse, because now you're basically saying that Donald Trump didn't only demonstrate a disdain for human rights, but Donald Trump also demonstrated some resemblance of this fascist authoritarian regime where he thought he was well within his moral rights to play judge, jury, and executioner with Abri Garcia and sentence him to be beaten and tortured in a prison across the globe, even though he didn't see his day in court because Donald Trump thought he was guilty without said due process. Doesn't that make things a little bit worse, HVAC? Honestly, you should have
No, not
stuck with
really.
a liberal grift, man. I know exactly who you are, so
Oh,
you really should have
If
stuck
you're
with a
talking
liberal
about
grift.
grifting, that would more likely be you.
How can you sit from your position and even say that to me? You were for a while
Listen, I just
grifting as a liberal, and then as soon as liberal communities on this app started to call you out for your grift, look at you. Now all of a sudden you're back on Dean Withers'
about
lives, arguing that Donald Trump is a good president without a disdain for human rights that is keeping good promises for the American people. Fucking grifter. Get a load of this, Joe.
He is. Oh my gosh, bro! You've gotten so good. Okay, so you're calling me a grifter. What's your definition of grifting?
Yeah, for sure. Intentionally misleading people for some type of gain. I think that when you were
Okay, and
acting
how
as a
did I do
liberal on
that?
this app, you were intentionally misleading people for
Wait,
some
how
type
do
of
you
gain.
know I was acting?
Maybe.
Hang on. How do you know I was acting like a liberal?
Yeah, because you were telling us that you supported Kamala Harris, that you supported the Democratic Party, that you supported liberal/progressive movements, ideologies, beliefs, etc. And then the moment when people on the left started to show you disdain because they didn't believe you, because it was like 3 months prior to that you were a Trump supporter, look at you now, you're a Trump supporter again. So unless you were just
Wait, so two parts of the
miraculously,
claim?
unless you just had some miraculous awakening for 3 months where you gained 45 IQ points and the research slash knowledge on American politics and foreign relations, global geopolitics, etc. of the average sophomore in high school, and then all of a sudden 3 months later, I don't know, you just lost it all for whatever reason, you're a fucking grifter.
Dude, let's talk about it. Hang on. I disagree with your premise here. You said, wait, so do you believe that I was telling the truth? And I was supporting Kamala. That's 100% a fact. You just said it.
So
right?
what happened, man? Because you went from supporting Kamala Harris to arguing that Donald Trump didn't demonstrate a disdain for human rights after playing judge, jury, and executioner without due process, a day in court, and an illegal deportation of Abri Garcia to be tortured and beaten in a prison in El Salvador.
This was your point, not mine. Remember?
Well, your point in response to mine
I'm just
is to
giving you
say
an
that
internal
what I'm
critique.
saying isn't true.
No, I'm not saying it wasn't true. I'm just saying it's emotionally based. It's not like a logical argument. But wait, let's talk about the grifting.
So what do you mean
said-
it's not a logical
So
argument?
you do agree?
Wait, 1 second. Let's explore that. What do you mean it's not a logical argument?
So what Trump did is he ramped up ICE, right? They started deporting more people whom they thought weren't here or thought legally, whatever it was. They deported someone without due process. We agree with that. Now, what they did was the Supreme Court found it was illegal. They brought him back. That's it. Like, what do you? And then what you're doing is you're trying to like.
They found out it was
They-
illegal. So you're actually the one making the illogical emotional argument because you're leaving out particular facts that would culminate to the position that he demonstrated a disdain for human rights, particularly the fact that he's being beaten in that Center for Terrorists, and particularly the fact that when he was being beaten in that Center for Terrorists, the Trump administration went on Twitter and said that he's never coming home.
Based off what
You're
his
ignoring those facts. But it
Right.
those
Has
facts
anybody
that would amount to the
refuted-
position
right.
that he
That's
demonstrated a disdain for
Dean,
human rights.
just because a lawyer says something doesn't make it true.
Oh, okay. So now you don't believe that he was actually beaten in that prison because just because a lawyer says something doesn't make it true. Well, it's not just the
that you're
testimony
strawmanning me.
of Abri Garcia's lawyer to demonstrate that he was beaten and tortured in that prison. It's also the testimony of hundreds of other inmates, as well as the testimony of individuals that have visited the facility.
Okay, so show me the testimony of hundreds of other inmates. And by the way, I didn't say he wasn't. That's not my claim. I just said a lawyer can say whatever the hell they want. That doesn't make it true.
Okay, so then you believe he was?
That's based off of what he's saying specifically. That he wasn't or that he was. I'm just saying, I don't have to, I'm in the negative. You're in the affirmative. You have to prove your claim, not me.
Yeah, go on Google, type in Human Rights Watch Declaration on Prison Conditions in El Salvador for the JGGV Trump case. So this is a declaration.
And now you're making a
from
red
the
herring.
I'm giving you evidence that the conditions of
No, you
individuals
said
in this
100
prison.
inmates testified that he was beaten and tortured.
I'm saying that we have the testimony from plenty of these inmates to demonstrate a lack of livable conditions, and this testimony is going to be culminated from what we see
that's
here from the Human
causation.
Rights Watch.
That's correlation causation fallacy.
What the hell are you saying? What? Culmination causation?
Dude, okay.
What
Hang
what
on,
is
slow down.
going
So this
on
is what
here?
you said first, Dean. Yeah, what's going on is you're just like throwing a bunch of fallacies at me, like seeing what sticks.
Oh, yeah, no, look at this. On July 2024, Human Rights Watch published a report on abuses committed against children during the state of emergency inside of CCOT. Over 3,300 children have been detained, many without ties to gang activity or criminal organizations. Human Rights Watch documented 66 cases of children subjected to torture, ill treatment, and appalling conditions, including at times extreme overcrowding, unhygienic conditions, inadequate food and medical care while in custody, while also being beaten. This is exposing them to heightened risk of abuse and violating international juvenile justice standards. So I know that my and then also Human Rights Watch has interviewed more than 30 people released from their prison, including children, dozens of people, and dozens of people who have relatives in jail. These interviews were conducted in person in several states in El Salvador or by telephone and corroborated by additional research and media reports. One of the individuals in which we spoke to said that they were detained and beaten. And even had a guard break his rib.
Okay, let me
so
just.
then also we see here another. This goes on and on and on. So yeah, we actually once again let me summarize evidence from hundreds of people that have been in here.
Tell me if I'm wrong.
Thousands that have had their human rights violated inside of CCOT. In fact, the fact that I have you now defending CCOT is crazy. I have this guy defending CCOT. I have this guy saying that CCOT is a humanitarian, hotspot where everybody is just treated with joy.
That's just you strawmanning my
human
argument.
rights treated well. This is completely.
All right, Dean, so here's your argument. Hear me out. This is your argument. Tell me if I'm wrong, right? Like, I'll just use like sort of a hypothetical. So you're saying that someone was detained in a prison, right? That person came out of that prison, told their lawyer they were beaten and tortured. Then that prison also has a documented record of torturing and beating people. Therefore, this is to be true.
Yeah, therefore we'd have more than
that's not how it
reason to
works.
believe that it's true. Why not?
You can believe it.
If we have documented cases of like thousands of kids being tortured in here, right? If Abri Garcia comes out and testifies to the fact that he was tortured in there as well, I'm gonna believe Abri Garcia. I'm gonna say that we have more than enough evidence to believe that what he's saying is more likely than not the case.
I mean, okay, well then that's just correlation causation fallacy then.
What is a correlation causation fallacy?
If you're, it means what you're saying is because people get tortured in this prison, therefore it's likely that he had been tortured or he was tortured.
Because like thousands and thousands and thousands of people have been tortured in this prison. If an inmate goes to this prison, is then released 31 pounds lighter than they were beforehand, and says that they've been tortured, and gives
the probability
that
is
would
higher,
align to that of other individuals that have also testified about the torture inside of the jail, such as being forced to kneel and beaten by the guards, broken ribs, being told that they'll never come out. Well, then it is the case. I'd say that we have more than enough reason to believe that what they're saying is true. I think that you rejecting this fact is absolutely insane.
I'm not rejecting the fact.
Okay, so then you accept it?
No, I say the probability is high.
So which one is it? Do you accept it or do you reject it?
No, I say the probability is high.
Okay, so does a probability is high? Does that fall into the category of it being high enough for you to believe that it's the case? Or does it fall into the category of it's not high enough for you to believe that it's the case, therefore you reject it?
I'm not going to come to a conclusion.
Okay, all right. You got Mr. Agnostic HVAC. What a way to, be a loser. Real
Bro,
quick.
I've heard you say you're not
one second.
agnostic all the time.
One second. I need to thank Annalise. Thank you so much for the $100 donation over on PayPal. Thank you so much for the love, Annalise, for the $100. That is insane, Annalise. Thank you so much for the love. Annalise says that we love you, Dean. I love you too, Annalise. I want to see at least 1,000 Annalise W's down below in that chat. That is ANALYSE. Show some love to Annalise down below below literally right now, y'all. I do really appreciate you so much for your kindness. That is insane. As well as Jordan with the $3 and Blakey with the $1. I'd also quickly like to thank James for the $20 over on Venmo with the thank you so much for the love, James. Let's see, 200 James W's down below, and then 100 Serena W's with a $10 send. Would love to see you obliterate Kirk one day. Me too. Thank you so much for that love. And then Beverly 30 minutes ago on Venmo with a $20 saying love you, Dean. Thank you for all that you do. I do really appreciate you so much for the love, Beverly. Real quick, HVAC, could you like show some love to Annalise for the $100 donation? Can we get a W, Annalise, from you?
Dude, is this? Listen, man, I'm trying to have a good conversation with you. Thank you, Annalise. Good job. $100.
We're trying to have a good conversation with you. No, you're not.
This is
you just said that you're agnostic of Abri Garcia was tortured and beaten. Yeah, I have a question.
All right, I'd like to gather all the facts to make a well-informed decision, Dean. So should you.
I know, but I think we have enough facts to make that decision. All right, we're going to get him put up to a mob vote. Should we keep this guy on or should we kick him off? Because he's obviously being bad faith. I just want to know if you guys want to see me, want to continue to watch me drill this bad faith debater. Because I will if you guys want it. But if you guys are like sick and tired of the bad faith antics, I'll just kick him and move on to the next guys. Cool. All right, I'll go to kick him. HVAC, you got absolutely grilled. Fake performative grifter. Have a good rest of your day. Let's go to move on to the next guest. Here we go, everybody. If you're in that queue, make sure that means that you support Trump. Let's go and get that next guest up on the live. Here we go, y'all. Also, everybody on the TikTok stream, make sure that we're double tapping and sharing that live out with a handful of friends. And what is going on? Do you support Trump?
Yes, I do.
Oh, goodness gracious. Why is that?
Multiple reasons. Number one, national, international defense, economy, draining the swamp, fighting government corruption.
National defense? I actually think that he's pretty bad for national security. Let's start there. I think that his economic policy, as well as his mass deportation, will just inevitably increase crime in America, and that's pretty bad for national security.
Could you elaborate?
For sure. Like his mass deportation, for instance, the Center for American Progress tells us that'll just X out 1.1 trill through 1.7 trill from our GDP. We forego the money that they pay in taxes, as well as the new expenses incurred through the cost of the operation of the mass deportation. All of these things would amount to a weaker economy for a multiplicity of reasons. With a weaker economy comes higher levels of poverty. With higher levels of poverty comes more crime, because crime is a result, at least a lot of crime is a result of poverty. And then according to the Center of Budget and Policy Priorities, they tell us that the BBB could also possibly increase poverty. So, I mean, that's going to be a smaller reason that we could talk about secondarily. I'd like to first talk about mass deportation. But ultimately, I just think that we see policy that will increase poverty. With an increase in poverty comes an increase in crime, and with an increase in crime comes a decrease in national security.
So, to be clear, your point is that if we enforce our laws by deporting people who are here illegally, then somehow that's going to increase crime, just totally negating the fact that Donald Trump already has put policies in place that have been shown to be complete economic wins. They've helped to pull up the middle class. If you look, for example, at the 2017 Tax Cuts and Job Act, we saw the median household income rise by thousands of dollars. We saw wages increase by 4.2%. So he increased jobs by 17 million jobs for Americans already during his very first term. So the insinuation that Donald Trump is just totally deporting people with absolutely no backup to this, and that's going to increase crime because we're holding people accountable for crime, I don't understand what this talking point is.
So your first response there, saying, so you're saying because we're enforcing the law in the books and deporting undocumented immigrants, that's going to increase crime. You're asking me if that was a fair observation of my argument. My answer would be yes. That is a fair observation of my argument. That's the argument that you have to refute. And then as relating to your secondary claims about the success of his economic policy in his first term, not only was that a pivot, but you also kind of were incredibly misleading there. So you said he added 17 million jobs to the economy. That's just like a total amount of the jobs added to the economy under his first term. So A, you're just assuming that all jobs added to the economy was the fault of his policy. And then B, that's also just completely ignoring all the jobs lost. So if we really want to play that correlation causation game and blame anything that happened in his first administration on him, well, then we'd say that he's also responsible for all the jobs lost, meaning that he oversaw the second administration in American history with a total net loss in jobs. But I mean, all those secondary claims were ultimately a huge deflection away from my argument that mass deportation weakens the economy and increases crime, which is thereby bad for national security. Then also everybody, I know what her bio says. She's a Zionist, right? I see her often. She does these lives. She makes her videos. She pisses a lot of people off. Let's go to and see what her response is.
Sure. So I actually already debunked your first talking point, but I can clarify it if you didn't understand how I did.
So how did you debunk my point that mass
Yeah, that's
deportation
what I was
will
getting
weaken the
into.
economy and cause an increase in crime?
Yeah. So basically, you're acting as if this is a standalone policy, that all he's doing is deporting people. He's not doing anything to help stimulate the economy or help position Americans into those jobs, help to grow American businesses and everything like that. So no, he's not just deporting people. It's not these jobs are just now empty and there's no way to refill them. On top of the fact that, once again, we should not just be allowing people to break our laws because we feel bad for them, because that's putting American citizens at risk. So actually holding people accountable for their crimes, saying that's somehow bad for national security when it's an undeniable fact that there are American citizens who would currently be alive at this very day, at this very time, had we enforced our border security to begin with. That's absolutely nonsensical. Donald Trump, you're trying to say, oh, well, all these jobs were lost under Trump. Okay, what happened at the very end of Donald Trump's term? COVID. So let's not act like this was something isolated or something that he had control over. Up to COVID happening, he was doing astronomically well economically. He blew the rates in which people thought that he would lower unemployment out of the water. He increased GDP. The only reason why it went down was under COVID. So it's just not a fair analogy. I'm not deflecting anything. I'm explaining to you that holding people accountable for their crimes is not dangerous. If anything, it's making sure that we know who's in our country. We know what they're bringing into our country, because let's not even get into the fact that they're bringing in all these deadly rates of fentanyl. Let's not talk about the over 300,000.
You have another account. You request on another account. I know you have another account. Request on it. You can't say the names of DRUGS while you're on TikTok Live. We'll wait for you. I'm not going to move on to the next guest. I know you got about 1 billion accounts. Just hop on one of the other ones and re-request. She'll be right back. She'll be right back. We'll be watching the queue. We'll be watching the queue. While we are waiting on her to hop on another account so we can load her back into the live, make sure that we're double tapping on that phone screen. She kind of caught an L there, but I want to debate her. So come back on another account. You have like 1 billion. All right. While she's coming back on another account, I'll take a couple of super chatters. Mark, thank you so much for the $10 over on YouTube super chat. I really do appreciate you. That says you have a gift for arguing with people who don't understand logical fallacies. I'm surrounded with Trump supporters, and I can't convince them of anything. It's a hard job, Mark, but I do appreciate you for the love. As well, Sophia, thank you for the $10 over on YouTube super chat as well, saying I've learned so much watching you, your streams, and can finally hold my own at family gatherings. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you so much for the love, Sophia. All right, let's go ahead and check that queue. See if she's back. Where is she? Come on, come back. What's her name? Yeah, there she is. Welcome back.
Hi.
You can't say the names of drugs on TikTok Live.
Okay.
All right.
You just did. But
So you could say the word drug. You can't say like the names of them though.
Okay. So F. They're bringing thousands of pounds of F.
There you go.
Does that work?
That does work.
Do we understand? Okay, perfect. They're unaliving American children by bringing in this essentially poison. There's, like I said before, I got dropped 300,000, a little over actually, children missing at the border. So by ensuring that we are enforcing our policies,
I need to start writing this all down. Just throwing like 10 talking points at me. Go ahead.
Well, I'm responding to everything you said. Every talking point I have is in response to what you said.
You
could try listening.
That's debatable. No, I'm listening to you. I'm listening to you. I do just think that there's limits to like the retention of.
Sure. So if you can't retain it, it's fine. We could end it here and then go back and forth.
Okay.
It's totally okay.
Okay. So the first point that you made was what? What was the first point you made?
The first point I made was that this is not being done in isolation, where we're just deporting people and then there's no backup, there's nobody to fill these jobs.
Yeah, that is a first point you made. Yes. That no, actually, that was a second point you made. The first point that you made was that Donald Trump has other policy that will help strengthen the economy. So the motivation behind that first point was the idea that even if mass deportation weakens it, because of his other pro-economy policy, will come out to a net benefit. So the Center on American Progress tells us that a mass deportation tomorrow would excommunicate 1.1 trillion through 1.7 trillion from the GDP per year. So you'd have the burden to demonstrate that his other economic policy will add 1.1 trillion trill through 1.7 trill to our GDP per year. Have fun doing that. That one's going to be fun. Then the second point that you made was that Donald Trump is going to have Americans refill the jobs left behind by undocumented immigrants. So that's absurd to assume. There's already 8 million open job opportunities, and there would be 8.3 million that would open via mass deportation. Americans aren't filling the 8 million that already exist, so why would they fill the 8 million that would exist? But just assuming that they would, our economy would still be weaker, because although we would be able to replace the laborers on the supply side, we wouldn't be able to replace the demanders on the consumption side. So we would still lose a total of 12 million consumers, and the economy would still be worse off. So there's my response to your first 2 points. How about we start there? Or would you like me to go on? Because you're also talking about how undocumented immigrants bring in the FDRUG. 85 to 90% of the DRUGS brought across our southern border brought by citizens, not undocumented immigrants. And then you were saying that they're killing people, committing all of these crimes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I mean, if the threat is a precedent of, like crime and death, citizens are 2.5 times more likely to commit violent crimes. They should be first up on the chopping block, but obviously you don't think that. And if your response to that is maybe, although they are less likely to commit these crimes, they're still committing some crimes that wouldn't have been committed if they weren't here. Okay, I could agree with that. But the best way to move forward is obviously going to be the path to reduce the amount of crimes in the future. And that's not mass deportation, because remember, my original argument would increase crime. The better way to reduce crime moving forward would be mass amnesty, but we'll get to that later because I want you to respond to the 3 arguments I just gave you. First argument, demonstrate to me Donald Trump's economic policy that will add above 1.1 trill through 1.7 trill to the GDP per year so the economy isn't hurt by mass deportation. Second argument, go in and respond to my claim that they're not going to fill the open job opportunities created via mass deportation, and even if they did, the economy is still worse off because we're losing 12 million consumers. Third argument about the DRUGS, vast majority of all those brought into this country are by citizens. Fourth argument, they're 2.5 times less likely to commit violent crimes, so the people on the chopping block to start with should be citizens. And if your response is, well, they're still committing some crimes, well, you don't want more, so you shouldn't support mass deportation. There is your 4/5 counter objections that you can respond to. Take it away.
Yeah, so starting with your very first point about the GDP, actually under your favorite thing, the big beautiful bill, we're supposed to be seeing the GDP increase by a little bit over 5% on top of the fact that private investment is going to skyrocket under this bill, which is just going to be boosting it even further. Because when you look at a broken system, obviously you're going to have an initial pain period. You're going to have to make an investment if you want that to pay off, and we're going to see the private sector skyrocket when it comes to investment, especially when you take into consideration all the amazing things that it's going to be doing, like the $10,000 tax credit for people who decide to buy American-made vehicles. We're going to be seeing fossil fuels come back to American production, which is absolutely amazing, far better than when Biden cut jobs for all of those people on the Keystone pipelines. And his response to that was, well, you should probably learn how to code. So yeah, that's going to be raising our GDP, raising our investments through the roof. Moving on to your second point.
How much will it increase our GDP by? You said 5%. Is that in 10 years?
It's let me look at the exact time frame. Can I finish responding to your points and then I'll tell you the time frame? Does that work?
I don't know. I want to hone in on that first point. Because you said the bill that Donald Trump is passed that will account for the negative economic implications onset by the mass deportation is big, beautiful bill. You said, and I quote, the big, beautiful bill will increase the GDP by 5% and will skyrocket private investment. So let's hone in on that first claim. Will it increase the GDP by 5% every year or over the 10-year lifespan of the bill?
Over the 10-year lifespan, but that doesn't include the investments that it's going to be raising.
Okay, so 5%.
Is that finish what I'm saying though?
5%. Is that 5% of the current GDP?
On this whole tirade, can I finish responding? Because
we're just trying to be like hyper-specific and hone in on these subpoints, so we're not muddying the water and abstracting it to a larger convo.
You started off by saying that I said too many points, and then you gave the exact amount of points. So just let me finish what I'm saying, and then we could have a talk, right?
I feel like it'd be more productive if we did it my way, but I'll let you do it your way. Just like I'm just telling you, the conversation will literally be less productive, but I'm fine with it. Go for it.
Okay. So moving on to the next point that you made, you were trying to say, I don't know if these are in order, but they'll all get there. The next thing that you were trying to say is that if you deport illegal immigrants, we're going to see an increase in crime. which is weird because if you look at the border states where they've already implemented stricter border security as well as higher rates of deportation, we've actually seen crime go down by about 25 to 30%. So this would just automatically throw that out the window. Moving on, I believe this was actually your second point, that if you think that 8 million Americans, they weren't filling the jobs before, so why would they fill the jobs now? Well, because they're going to...
Oh. Getting a call.
Sorry, I got a phone call. Moving on from that, you're saying that they're not going to fill the jobs. Why would they fill the jobs? Well, because they're going to have to fill the jobs. Because if you are an able-bodied American, especially one without a dependent, we're going to see stricter regulations to where you can't just be living off of the government. So congratulations, all of these jobs are opening up. You can go get one now. You could be a productive member of society and you can contribute to your country. Congratulations, what an honor. The very last point I believe that you made was talking about how, well, American citizens are actually the ones bringing the, I don't know what word I could say, F over. They're bringing the F over. Okay, where are they getting it from? They're getting it from the cartel who has links to these illegal immigrants who are currently living in our country. You're trying to say, well, you know, American citizens commit more crime rates, sure, but you're not looking at, number one, the...
You got another call?
Sorry. They're going to stop calling. But you're not looking at the population proportion on top of the fact that just because, yes, obviously there's going to be crimes committed by American citizens, there's nothing we can really do about that. There's different things that we could do to mitigate that risk, and Donald Trump's FBI is actually already doing that, which is amazing. But there is something we could do to prevent illegal immigration happening that's causing our American citizens to lose their lives. For example, it's a very simple question. If Biden had actually followed the laws that we had in place with our border, yes or no, would Laken Riley, would Jocelyn Nungary, all these people unalived by illegals who were let go under Biden's catch and release policy, would they be alive today, yes or no?
Okay. What I'd ask you in response is what laws didn't he follow, so I could have a better idea of what your argument is. I'd also like to add on here that I don't know what the fuck you're doing. The reason I don't know what the fuck you're doing is because I thought that we agreed that we were going to go point by point, starting off with the fact that you said the BBB would increase the GDP by 5%.
And then you said...
And then going on, one moment, I let you talk for like 5 minutes. Then we'd go on to your second point where you said that mass deportation doesn't cause an increase in crime because we've seen the crime rates in border states go down by 30%. To your third point where you said that Americans would fill the jobs because they'd have to because the BBB has new work requirements to qualify for the ACA. And then to your fourth point, that the citizens bringing the DRUGS into America have links to the cartels, which are associated with the undocumented immigrants. And then to your fifth point, where you said that while undocumented immigrants, they're not truly less likely to commit violent crimes because we're not accounting for population sizes. I thought you said that we were going to go over those points, but now you're starting a new conversation about how if Joe Biden had followed the immigration policy on the books, Laken Riley wouldn't be dead. So what I'll just simply ask you to do is I'll take note of that. I'll write that down that your claim is if Joe Biden followed the immigration policy on the books that Laken Riley wouldn't be dead. And we could talk about that after we talk about the other 5 points that you brought up. Because originally, remember, I wanted to explore the fact that you said the big beautiful bill would increase the GDP by 5%. And then one moment, and then you said, well, I need to finish responding to everything you just said first. And I let you, even though I told you it'd be less productive. It actually won't be less productive. I wrote everything down. We're good to go. But let's revisit those points so we could tell you why you're wrong before we move on to something entirely new. Could we agree that's
great?
fair?
I would just like to point out that I did my opening. You said it was too many points, and then
I followed them all. We're good.
Yeah, no, but then you started and you did a ton of points. You said, let me stay to one, and then you go, well, actually, I could say this, and this.
I know. I responded to every one of your many points.
Great. So they're just your points. I just am acknowledging those are your points, but we could go one by one.
Yeah, I want to go one by one now that you've got it all out. I read everything that you said down. So where do you want to start? Your claim that the big beautiful bill will increase the GDP by 5%. Your claim that mass deportation won't increase crime because we've seen the crime rates in border states go down. Your claim that Americans will have to fill the jobs left by undocumented immigrants because of newer work requirements under the BBB. Your claim that although it's not the undocumented immigrants bringing drugs into this country, it's citizens that are getting them from cartels that have associations with undocumented immigrants. Or your claim that no undocumented immigrants are not less likely to commit crimes because we're not accounting for population size. Which one of those points do you want to start with? I'll let you choose.
You can start wherever you'd like.
Really? Okay, well, if we want to start where I want, I mean, I'd just start off with the fact that your response to me saying that it's not undocumented immigrants bringing drugs into this country, it's citizens, literally didn't prove me wrong. It affirmed what I said. You said, yes, Dean, you're right. It is the citizens bringing drugs into the country. They're just getting them from the cartels who are not undocumented immigrants in this country, and then finish it off with a rhetorical dance by saying that they somehow have associations with undocumented immigrants. So I'd start on that point because your response literally affirmed what I said is right and reaffirmed that what you said is wrong. Then I'd move on to your second claim where you said that undocumented immigrants are not less
Wait,
likely
are we
to commit
going
violent
point
crimes.
by point or not?
Sure, let's go point by point. That's fair. Go ahead.
Okay. So starting with that point, the cartel themselves have openly admitted that under Biden, something that Harris also echoed the same sentiment, it was actually easier for them. The cartel openly declared
That's not
war.
responding to the point.
It is. If
No,
you just let me,
the point that we're debating right now is
Can
if
you let me
undocumented immigrants are
finish and then you'll
bringing the
understand
F
how
drug
that's
into the country.
responding to the point?
Sure.
Thank you. So the cartel, the reason why they openly stated that they did not want Trump in office and why they themselves openly declared war against the United States essentially is because they do go hand in hand with having weaker border security. They love a weaker border because they are able to get their human trafficking, their drugs into the country. Certain times they will use citizens, but there's strong links between a weak border and those citizens even being able to bring them in. On top of the fact, this isn't even getting into all
What
of
are the
coyote-
links?
I'm sorry?
What are the links? Like, what has Donald Trump done to address the DRUGS being brought into America by citizens in legal ports?
Having border security, stricter border security, where these people are being investigated further.
Can you be more specific? Like, what exactly has he done?
Sure, the investments into things like having the border wall, making sure that we're tightening up our
The
ports
border
of
the
entry.
border wall prevents undocumented entry, not
Are
legal
you going
entry.
to let me finish?
Sure, but that point was just abundantly false.
It's not abundantly false because if you're tightening up the ports of entry, if you're giving better training to these border agents that are doing these investigations, many of these so-called citizens also are people that were granted citizenship under Biden who had originally come here illegally. So if you get into all of it, making sure we have a strong border with people who know what they're doing, have the resources, have the funds in order to be able to enforce these, then we're just going to see better results all around.
Okay, so your first point there is that you said that the border wall tightens legal entry? What?
No, it's not just about legal entry because what you're not understanding is that these drugs are not merely coming from
The question
legal-
that it was all about legal entry because this
It's
response
not
of
all
yours
about
claiming the
trying to
border
deny
wall was
the
in
fact
no
that
no one second
illegal drugs
I
come in.
literally asked you the question, what has Trump done to crack down on the legal citizens coming into this country with the drugs? And your response was that the border wall tightens the legal ports of entry. So this
No,
is
that
just
wasn't
about the
just my
citizens
response.
because the
You didn't
question that I
listen.
asked you
It's
was
that
about the
they're being
citizens
given the
and the
training
response that you
that they
gave me
need.
to the
They're being
question that I
given the
asked you
funding
was
that
saying
they
the border wall.
Sweetheart, I said that they're getting the training they need. They're getting the funding they need.
That was your second point, but the first one was a border wall. That was your second point.
sorry?
I'll respond to that one too. But your first response was a border wall. You gave two responses. You said that the
Border
border
wall
wall
because
cracks down on the
you're
drugs
not
brought into this country by
understanding.
citizens. And the second point that you used was like funding border patrol more, better training, etc. I want to respond to both of those points, but I'm going to respond to the first point first. You said that the border wall cracks down on the legal entry into this country. What the fuck does that even mean? Can you admit that you like misspoke and what you said didn't make sense, probably because you're flustered or some shit like that? Just admit that you were wrong. If you don't admit that you were wrong, please give me your argument that the border wall restricts legal entry into this country.
Right, so I think that you might have misunderstood what I was speaking about, or I'd be more than happy.
Okay.
Why did I? Your people are like mass
do
reporting.
you have a third account?
I can.
Yeah, go on the third account. All right. I think that I actually think that we need to spell out DRUGS now. Okay. All right. Well, now we'll wait for her to get on her third account, everybody. I'm actually having fun in this debate. Okay. So you guys are watching me do something that I don't usually do. So for all of my debates, I don't like write down what the guests say. I just kind of keep a mental note of it and then I try to decipher the madness. But with her, I'm like just writing everything down and being like annoying as possible by fact checking and critiquing every bullshit talking point she says. Like while she's re-requesting on that second account, she just got lost in the fucking sauce. So I asked her the question, like, what is Donald Trump doing to like further crack down on the legal citizens coming into this country through the legal ports carrying the DRUGS? Her response was to say the border wall. Completely outrageous. So as soon as she's back in here on her third account this time, we're going to either have her just concede that what she said didn't make sense or try to defend that building more wall somehow cracks down on legal entry through the legal ports. But let's look for her third account at this point, everybody. Everybody just be patient. And then once again, if you want to support me, you can find my Venmo, my PayPal in the link tree and my BIO, y'all. Get 100% of the proceeds over on those platforms. We're just waiting on her to go on her third account. She should be back in here like any moment, and we'll re-accept her back up. She should be back here at like any moment. And while she's doing that, I'm going to go and thank a handful of people. Anthony, thank you so much for the $5 over on PayPal. I do really appreciate you so much for that love, Anthony. That is incredibly kind. I would also like to thank Miko. Thank you so much for the $50 over on PayPal. Dude, Miko, that is outrageous. Thank you so much for the love, Miko. Seriously, while she's re-requesting on her third account, if you guys could spam some W Mikos down below in that chat, that would be awesome. Thank you so much for the love, Miko. That is seriously so incredibly kind of you. Thank you so much, Miko. As well as Anonymous, thank you for the $5 over on PayPal. Blakey with a 1, and then Jordan with a 1 as well. Thank you guys so much for all of the love. You guys have been incredibly kind today. I'd also like to thank Ryan for the 5, Marissa with a 5, Jane with a 10, and Riley with a 5 over on PayPal, as well as Painted Man with the $10 over on YouTube Super Chat, saying purposeful overloading in an argument is a tactic for insecure, relying on obfuscating the level of evidence supporting the claims. What do you think? No, I absolutely agree with you. That's why I'm writing down every single thing that she just says so I can make sure I re-reference every single thing she says. As well as the Disgusted Veteran, I appreciate you for the $10. Thank you so much for the love. That is incredibly kind. And then this was a while ago, but Carson, thank you for the $20 over on Super Chat. Carson says, me and my girlfriend Ellie are watching you on our drive. We love you, Dean. P.S. Could you please say hi to Ellie? She doesn't know I donated. Ellie! Hi! I hope that you guys are still listening. And then we're going to thank one more person, then we're going to recheck the queue for her. Let's see here. Abigail! Thank you so much for the $20 over on PayPal. Let's get 200 Abigail W's. She says, appreciate all that you do. You're so admirable. Thank you for the love, Abigail. But all right, let's go ahead and recheck that queue for the guest. She is back. Phenomenal. Okay, welcome back.
This
okay.
is the last one, so like tell your people to not report because they're mad or whatever.
It's the DRUG talk. I'm telling you, it's not even the people watching. It's just seriously the TikTok TOS. So now instead of saying DRUG, we have to spell DRUG out. Okay, but now we're going to go back to the last point that we brought up. So I had asked you, what is Donald Trump doing to crack down on the citizens bringing DRUGS into this country? And your response was the border wall. So do you want to concede that that point was ridiculous? Or do you want to try to defend that building border wall is going to crack down on citizens at legal ports of entry?
Sure. So if you look right now at where the majority of our resources are going when it comes to the border, unfortunately, a lot of it has to go to illegal immigration. By having a stricter border wall, by lessening the amount of illegal immigration, by lessening the chaos and the risk rate, we're going to be able to allocate those resources in ways that are actually useful to stopping things coming through the legal port of entries. So if you're basically making sure that the resources that we're utilizing and have been given are going to the appropriate channels in which they were meant for, then we're going to see a decrease in that as well because the system won't be so overrun.
Great attempt at twisting what you said. Now, the only reason I know that you're twisting what you said is because you made two distinct separate points when I originally asked you the question. Okay? The first point you made was border wall. The second point you made was further funding Border Patrol. But now you're saying that that first point was actually synonymous with the second point. Now, if that's what you meant, whatever. Let's talk about that second point. Further funding Border Patrol. Okay, so if funding Border Patrol to a higher extent is better at cracking down on citizens coming into this country, and we know that it's always been a disproportionate amount of the citizens bringing DRUGS into this country compared to undocumented immigrants, then you would say, because the CBP and ICE, Border Patrol as a whole, was funded significantly more under the Biden-Harris administration compared to Trump in his first term, you would say that the Biden-Harris administration actually cracked down harder on the citizens bringing DRUGS into this country than Donald Trump did in his first go-around, right?
No, because it doesn't just have to do with funding. If you look at the abysmal policies that were put in place by Biden Harris, for example, their catch and release policy that has direct ties to Americans losing their lives, then you're going to see that the funding doesn't really matter if it's not being used appropriately. But under Donald Trump, especially with him increasing the funding to the point that he is and making sure that it's actually being utilized in the correct ways, we're going to actually see a difference. Because if you just throw money at a problem, but you're not doing it in the correct way, it's not going to fix it.
With Trump, phenomenal. So your first response to that was say that it didn't have to do with funding. It had to do with the really bad policy of the Biden-Harris administration.
My point was it doesn't matter.
I'm literally writing down exactly what you said. So
then you didn't
just,
write down exactly
yes, I did.
what I said.
So you said that it doesn't have to do with funding.
Alone,
it had to do. That was your second point. No, the first
that
point.
Wasn't my second.
It was.
Sure.
It was. The first point that you made was that it doesn't have to do with funding. It had to do with the bad policy of the Biden-Harris administration, such as catch and release. And then your second point was to say that it did have to do with funding as it related with Trump. But then you finished that statement off by saying it's not the amount of money, it's where the funds are going to. So as it relates to your first point, that it didn't have to do with funding under the Biden-Harris administration, it had to do with the catch and release policy. Ma'am, who did the catch and release policy apply to? Citizens coming into this country or undocumented immigrants detained by Border Patrol?
Right. So the reason you were talking about funding.
Answer my question.
I'm answering your question, but
who
are you
did
going to
the catch and release policy apply to? Citizens or undocumented immigrants detained by Border Patrol?
That part pertained to illegal immigrants.
Okay.
Right.
So then why are you saying that the catch and release policy had anything to do with illegal citizens trying to come into this country?
Because you were talking about funding, but like I already explained to you, funding doesn't matter if it's going to inappropriate uses, which under them it was. It wasn't going towards.
Now you're pivoting to your second point.
Can you let me?
That's fine, but you're just pivoting to your second point. You made two points.
I'm not pivoting. I'm explaining entirely.
Whatever.
Entirely.
Okay, fine. Just make the obfuscation. Go for it.
Okay. Basically, what I was saying is that with funding, it doesn't matter if you just throw money at a problem, right? Mm-hmm. That money actually has to be used towards fixing the problem, which with them, it wasn't. It didn't go towards lessening the chaos. It didn't go towards cleaning our system out. If anything, it just invited them to clog it up even more so that these things were being overlooked. It completely ignores the fact of, well, where are these American citizens getting these DRUGS, right? It's just ignoring everything that actually goes into this, because this is not something that's being operated or run or controlled by American citizens. So if you're just completely overlooking the overarching points, then you're not going to get anywhere.
Okay. All right. So the reason I said that you're equivocating your points is because when I asked you, like specifically why the Biden-Harris administration wouldn't have cracked down further on DRUGS coming into this country, the first reason you gave me was that it doesn't have all to do with funding. It had to do with some of their shit policies, such as the catch and release policy. Okay. That was the first point that you made. Now, the second point that you made was that the funding has to be going to the right places, and that's important. Okay. Now, those were two distinct separate points. All I want you to do here is just concede that your reference to the catch and release policy under the Biden-Harris administration had absolutely nothing to do with the allocation of funding or better Border Patrol to handle the citizens coming in through legal ports of entry. Once you make that concession and admit that you said that with no reason, we'll move on to the broader point that you want to talk about, which has to do with where the funding is allocated to.
No, because I already explained to you why it goes hand in hand.
Okay, so then what is the intention of a reference of the catch and release policy that you said applied only to undocumented immigrants as it relates to our conversation about citizens coming into this country through legal ports of entry with DRUGS? I have a feeling that your response is going to be, well, the catch and release policy really, really sucked. And even though the catch and release policy has nothing to do with the specific point that we're talking about pertaining to legal citizens coming in with DRUGS, I'm going to make this rhetorical claim that this showed that they were bad with immigration, so therefore, with no greater empirical evidence or reason, they also must have been bad as it related to legal citizens coming in through legal ports with drugs. Am I right?
No, and I'm honestly shocked you're not right because I already stated this point twice, so I thought you'd be listening a little bit better, but it's okay. Basically, what I had said is that because of the amount of chaos on the border that we've already been seeing, which the majority of our resources, unfortunately, are currently going toward dealing with the illegal immigration issue, which they caused to worsen significantly, we were not able to appropriately use those funds. So when you have policies that are intentionally encouraging people to break our laws, and now it doesn't matter where the funding is going because you're having this problem that you've created that's so overbearing, it doesn't matter. So it's making it more likely that you're going to miss things like legal immigrants, or not legal immigrants, rather legal citizens.
Okay, I get your point. I get your point. So what's the data to prove your point? Tell us how much funding was diverted to border agents under the Biden-Harris administration to crack down on legal citizens coming in with the DRUGS, and then give me the data as it would relate to the funding for the same thing under Donald Trump's administration to show that there's more funding which demonstrated a higher level of efficacy to crack down on citizens with DRUGS under Trump.
I don't know the specific number that he used.
So then your point is clearly fucking rhetorical. It's just clearly rhetorical.
How is it rhetorical?
Because you have no empirical evidence to justify that it's true.
No, that has nothing to do with my point. My point is, if you are creating a worsening problem and you know that the majority of funding is going to a certain section of that problem that you are making worse, that you cannot keep up with.
Wait, but the underlying assumption.
It doesn't matter if you're just throwing money.
The assumption here is that they would have diverted funding away from agents like associated with legal ports of entry to further fund agents associated with undocumented entry, instead of saying that they just funded agents related to undocumented entry more. Okay, and that's not just an assumption that you'd have to make. That's an assumption that you'd have to prove with the use of empirical evidence and data to demonstrate that like there's some evidence to show us that there is more funding for agents that pertain to legal ports of entry under Trump's admin compared to Biden and Harris's. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to let that assumption slide.
Overall, there's more funding overall, and we saw the majority of resources from the funding that you are talking about.
Now you concede. You just conceded. Because my original argument was that according to your logic, the Biden-Harris administration would have further cracked down on legal ports of entry, citizens with drugs, because they had more funding overall. And then you like responded to that point by saying, no, the overall amount of funding doesn't matter. Okay, you can't say you didn't. That was your 1 point for 5 minutes. But rather, we have to look at how this funding is allocated. And then you made the claim that more funding was allocated under Trump to agents on legal ports of entry. I ask you for the data. You don't have the data. So then you just completely conceded and went back to my point that it's the funding overall. So which one is it? Do you think it's the amount of funding overall, or do you not think it's the amount of funding overall, but it's rather where that funding is going?
You made that up in your head. I never said anything about specific funding going toward legal ports of entry. What I said is that because of the burden on our system that illegal immigrants had, especially under Biden-Harris, where it was totally out of control, it was taking resources away from what that funding was initially meant for.
Okay, give us the data to show it. Give us the data to show that it reallocated resources away from legal ports of entry instead of just granting additional /new resources too.
Specific legal ports of entry. I'm talking about funding with immigration overall.
So then you're not talking about my point related to funding of Border Patrol and what this means for cracking down on citizens at legal ports of entry coming in with DRUGS. Because remember, your original point was that Donald Trump is cracking down on citizens coming into America at legal ports of entry by further funding Border Patrol. But now your takeaway, after me giving you a very marginal amount of pressure for like less than 10 minutes, is that it has nothing to fucking do with the funding. Okay, well, if it has nothing to do with the funding, then what is your argument that Donald Trump is further cracking down on citizens coming into this country with DRUGS and legal ports of entry?
No, Dean, you're making things up. Because what I said at the very start of this is that it doesn't matter how much funding you give if all of that funding is going toward an inappropriate use, which under Biden-Harris, because the border had gotten out of control, it was. Because we had only so much money that we could spend towards things at the border, and the biggest pressing issue at the border because of them was illegal immigrants trying to get through, being given excuses for why they could stay. So it wasn't direct funding to legal ports of entry. I never said that. What I said is it's going to be freeing up resources that we were inappropriately using before, so now we could use them for their intended purposes.
Okay, let's see that data.
For which part?
That there's now more resources going to cracking down on DRUGS that citizens are bringing into this country.
Sure. So under Biden-Harris, let me pull it up. A 2023 FAIR study estimated that the illegal immigration cost U.S. taxpayers around $182 billion in gross annual expenses. Let's see, with
So
a
that
net
study is not going to be talking about Border Patrol. That study is going to be talking about undocumented immigrants that are in this
Going to be
country, like off of
costing
social
about
benefits.
going
Apart
to
from
be
that study being wrong, it's not a study that is relevant to my claim, because originally
wrong.
my question for you was, I want to see the data that shows that there's been a diversion of funding and agents to legal ports of entry under Donald Trump's administration to further crack down on citizens bringing DRUGS into the country. And the data that you're giving me just is some like a wildly false estimation of how much the undocumented immigrants in this country cost like
Okay,
the
first,
government.
substantiate
So
that.
like not only are there's going to be like two different things, but this is also just isn't the data that I wanted to justify the point that you're making, because you'd have to show diversion of funding away from the legal ports of entry back to the legal ports of entry, now that I guess Donald Trump has cracked down on undocumented entry as a whole. And that's not what you're showing when you tell us that undocumented immigrants have apparently cost the taxpayer $180 billion per year.
Right. So first of all, you randomly said that that study is false with absolutely no backing, which that's strange.
Yeah. So
But
my
it's not.
preliminary reasons for
Let
that would
me-
be is that
just let
in
me
that study
finish.
they include like the educational expenses of the citizen children of undocumented immigrants, as well as the cost of maybe food stamp Section 8 that the children of undocumented immigrants would get even if they're citizens. And we could like further explore that. I'd love to give you my reasons, but after you give the data to represent your original point, which is now we've seen a diversion in more funding and attention to the legal ports of entry, which is further cracking down on citizens with DRUGS. I feel like right now you're really trying to dodge, deflect, and pivot as hard away from that as possible.
Well,
And I don't
no,
like
I
that.
haven't deflected anything. What I've been explaining to you, right, is every year we're getting a certain amount of funding for immigration, right? Let's break this down in the simplest terms we can. Let's say you have a pie, right? You have one whole pie, and there's 50% of that pie that's allocated for your parents. And then people come, they're stealing the pie, they're eating the pie, they're taking it away. Do your parents have 50% of that pie? No.
Okay.
But
And
if
you think this
put
is analogous to how
safeguards
funding
up-
works for Border Patrol?
If you put safeguards up to protect it, then you could give that pie to the intended recipients,
Right.
because you're not overworking the system, because this system is so backed up on things that it was never meant to handle. It was never meant to be this way. And because Biden-Harris were rewarding criminals actively, we were seeing a misuse of those funds that were going meant for border security, going towards helping the illegal immigrants. Do we
So I have a
understand?
question. Can your pie just like magically gain more pieces based upon demand?
Magically gain. That's a really weird way to say taxpayer burden. Can we burden the taxpayers for more dollars to help criminals? Sure. Should we? No.
Wait. If you think that spending money to like protect our border is going to be burdening the taxpayer, then you hate the BBB because it's funding ICE agents $125 billion in the next 10 years. But you'd say that you support that because it's doing something that you want, just the same way you'd support funding the Border Patrol agents more so they could do what you want, which is to crack down on DRUGS coming into this country, as you previously suggested. But if you don't actually give a shit about the DRUGS coming into this country, as you previously suggested, then obviously that would have been a counter argument to my original point. But what I will say is I want you to answer my question. Can this pie in this analogy that you just gave me magically gain or lose pieces based upon demand or necessity?
So to respond to everything that you just said, number one, you are the one who wanted to just completely pinpoint this DRUGS point, right? There was so much more to what I said about that, but sure, we could stay with that specific
Can you answer my
point.
question? Does your pie
I
that you're
mentioned
safeguarding
it.
gain
I-
or lose pieces based upon demand or necessity? No. But guess what the budget for the
You
border does?
made
So you're going to have to
multiple
show
points.
that there's a reallocation
You
of funding
made
away from the
multiple
legal means of
points,
entry
so
into
you're
this country
getting a
compared
response.
to new funding allocated by Congress.
You made multiple points. You're getting a response to all of them, and that
Okay,
includes
yeah.
your question. I promise.
Okay. She's
So
not going to respond to it, but try.
I'm going to respond to
That's
it.
all right. Okay.
So basically, when you look at it, right, you're saying, oh, you must hate the big, beautiful bill because it's giving more money to ICE agents. No, because it's giving that money to ICE agents to do what it's supposed to do. Meanwhile, so much of this funding under the Biden-Harris administration went towards specifically rewarding criminals. There's a huge... Your people are something else. There's a huge...
I can't keep you on with that restriction. Do you have any other accounts?
I can come back from my main account. It never got a restriction. You just wanted me to drop because of the wording.
Yeah, the main account works.
Okay.
Okay, we have one more account to talk to her on. Well, that was fun. She spent 20 minutes avoiding one question. We'll give her one last shot, everybody. Yeah, I'm bored. I was dog walking her pretty hard, but then the dog walk stopped because she just is now refusing to engage in the question. That's like typically how it goes. Like when you're like good faith enough to actually answer the questions, you get caught up, and you don't like getting caught up, and you could like refuse to get caught up by a refusal to answer questions. Also, Sid, thank you so much for the $100 super chat over on YouTube. Thank you so much for the love, Sid. I want to see 1,000 Sid W's down below in that chat. Thank you so much. That is incredibly kind, Sid. Sid says, Athena says not to let her speak on Israel as she believes she's paid to spread pro-Israel propaganda. Jesus Christ. Yeah, no, you got it. I will not let her speak on Israel. You got it. I'll keep it to immigration. She's already getting cooked hard enough. I do really appreciate you so much for the $100, Sid. Thank you so much for the kindness. Seriously, show some love to Sid down below. As well as I'd like to thank Jan 14 minutes ago with the $10 on PayPal saying I'm 77 and I love how you kick ass. Appreciate you for that love, Jan. As well as Ark. Thank you so much for the $50 over on PayPal 18 minutes ago. Ark says, get her Dean, watched her lives and she just knows how to steamroll over people and be condescending. Yeah, no, her steamroll hasn't been successful because I've been keeping track of everything she says in her steamrolls. And that's really bad for her. I bet nobody's ever done that to her before. But thank you so much for the $50 Ark. Let's see 500 Ark W's down below. As well as, let's see here. Jose, thank you so much for the $5 over on PayPal. I do really appreciate you so much for that love, Jose. As well as Ashley, thank you so much for the $20 over on YouTube Super Chat, saying that the Biden/Harris rewarded criminals is diabolical considering who she is supporting. Yeah, got that one damn straight, Ashley. Appreciate you for that love. You're awesome. Oh, looks like Parker's here. Let's go get Parker up. And then we're gonna. Oh, she's back on the main second account that she joined up on. What's going on, Parker? Welcome in.
What's good?
Not too much. Having a decent conversation with this lady right here. So we left off on you just actually not answering my question. You made an analogy.
We left off with me trying to answer your question. Your people getting mad, and you know.
That's not my that's not my people. You understand that I get those same flags and bans, or are my people reporting me?
Because I've been following all the guidelines and all the rules. Seems awfully suspicious.
Well, what's suspicious? Whoa, one second. What's suspicious is in my viewer base. What's suspicious is the fact that TikTok will enforce rules that are not explicitly stated inside of the TOS. But that's a problem with TikTok. That's not a problem with with the viewership of the live.
You say so.
I deal with this every day on live too. That's currently why I'm not on my main account.
All right.
Because I'm banned on every single one of my accounts from going live.
Okay.
Right. So remember, the question on the table is that...
No, I already remember. It's okay. You don't need to state a million different points. I can respond to what we were talking about before.
Well, I'm gonna clarify it so you can't obfuscate. So the question that I'm asking you is very clear. You made an analogy to a pie to basically demonstrate that because they had to focus more on undocumented entry, they diverted funding away from legal ports of entry, meaning that they weren't tougher on legal citizens carrying DRUGS, even though they funded Border Patrol as a whole more. And then you said that what Donald Trump is doing is more specifically allocating funding to those legal ports of entry. I asked you for data or empirical evidence to justify this point. You didn't have any, so you tried to give me an analogy to a pie, and if you're taking pieces of the pie, how much of the pie do you have left, or some stupid shit like that. I then responded to that by pointing out that like funding and discretionary budgets, it's not a pie. It changes based upon demand and necessity. And I mean, we saw an increase in like the discretionary budget and expenditure on Border Patrol and border regulation under the Biden-Harris administration. So your pie analogy was disanalogous. So at this point, I'll revert back to my original question where I want you to show us that Donald Trump has diverted more funding specifically to the legal ports of entry to crack down on citizens carrying DRUGS. If you can't do this, I think that you have failed at making your point. I would appreciate you just to own that instead of giving us ridiculous analogies that take 30 seconds to dispute, but I guess we'll have to just see what you choose to do.
Right. So what I'll choose to do is to take my words out of your mouth because you're twisting them, because I never said anything about diverting funds away from legal ports of entry. You said that in order to try to conflate our arguments together so that you could create something that you could falsely debunk because it was your own fake made up argument. What I'm saying is that we are getting a certain amount of funding towards things like border security. As a result of Biden-Harris's abysmal policies that rewarded criminality, we saw the majority of those resources going toward places that they should have never been at, unfortunately. Now, under Trump, I have no problem when we are seeing more funding go towards the correct spaces that they should be in, such as ensuring that our ICE border patrol agents are getting the correct amount of training that they need, making sure that we're lessening the chaos at the border by making sure people know that if they come here, they will not be rewarded for that, because that's really the basis of why Biden-Harris failed so much, is they were rewarding criminals. It's a longer story, but no, I never said that anything was being diverted away from legal ports of entry. You said that. And then I used the pie analogy to explain how wrong that was, but sure.
Great. So you literally just explained that I'm right, okay? Because I said you were making an allocation of a misallocation of funding away from the legal ports of entry to handling undocumented immigrants. And then you said, no, Dean, that's not what my argument is. Stop being a bad faith interlocutor that's misrepresenting my position. But then you went on to say that they diverted funding to quote unquote reward criminals, and that Donald Trump is spending that funding on like training ICE agents and whatnot to be better prepared at the legal ports of entry to crack down on.
I didn't say they diverted funding. I'm saying that if we're getting a certain amount of funding, unless you want to put a higher tax burden on the American people to appease criminals that shouldn't be here to begin with.
That's a side point. Come on.
It's not a side point.
Yeah, I mean, tax burden on the American people. Hopefully, it's not related to a primary point here that you're claiming that Donald Trump has been spending more money on the legal ports of entry, the people controlling it, to make sure they're better equipped and better trained to handle the DRUGS that citizens are bringing in.
No, it's ironic that you say that these are abysmal policies that award criminality while you support a candidate that pardoned people that violently assaulted police officers on January 6th and is a convicted criminal himself.
Sure. So those are different points. We could get into.
But does that like award criminality?
No, but we could get into.
How so? Can you explain how that doesn't award criminality?
Yeah. So you both made points. I can respond to both of your points. I guess this is a 1v2. That's fine.
I'm actually with you on this. You get to choose who you respond to. You could respond to me. You could respond to Parker.
I can respond to both.
No, I won't make you do that.
I can make the point later on if you'd like.
No, it's fine. I don't care. But what I was saying originally to you is that your counter argument to what I was explaining with the very basic analogy was, well, that only works if we're going based off the assumption that we can't just go get more pie. What does that mean in this case? It means get more money. Get more money from where? Get more money from the taxpayers in order to appease criminals. We shouldn't be doing that. And then we could, of course, tie it back into Parker's argument where you want to try to say, oh, January 6th, which Donald
money
Trump...
from taxpayers to appease criminals. Well, we literally spent $150 million of the taxpayers' funding to appease the criminal convicted felon Donald J. Trump for a military parade last month. So I don't know.